Anyhow. Okay. Hello to all of our lauding fans out there. As you know, because you can see my face or you can hear my voice, however you're getting this episode, I am Rabbi Pinchas Landis of Partners in Torah of Cleveland, and I am here with Rabbi Gamliel Nosson Halevi Spiro of Yeshiva Zappos in Torah and of the Parsha Shavua. This is one of Rabbi Spiro's favorite parshios because his name is there. The one time Gamliel appears in the Torah, not Nosson. Nosson never appears in the Torah as a name. It appears in the Torah as a verb, and it appears in Nach and Sefer Shmuel. Nosson and Navi, but this is the one time he's in the Torah as far as Gamliel's first name.
Apparently, I don't know if I said this last year, but my name comes from. This is what I heard, and it doesn't make any sense to me what I heard. But I heard that in my great grandfather's name was Gamliel, and it's a first name. It's a very interesting, pretty rare name. Apparently, in his village, he was from Poland. They named if you were born during the Nisim, you were given the name of that Nasi.
Right. As we discussed before, I remember on the podcast or off the podcast, the reason it doesn't make sense because then thered be some like elite Sores walking around.
There's no other names right now.
Some Shteyors. I mean, the only El Yosef both of us know is El Yosef Schlonger, Shlita. I don't think I know any other El Yosef. But now again, I don't know if that's such a kasha, just historically thinking, because it all depends on how big the town was in Poland and unfortunately how much Shmad hit that town. You know.
Right. In other words. It's so hard to know anything. I'll tell you one thing about that great grandfather of mine. He was a carpenter, and we still have stuff from him. He was like an unbelievable carpenter. Like a lot of kids' toys he made, kids' desks, drawers, a little horse rocker, which that I still use sometimes. And this stuff has lasted. I mean, he was nifter as old man already in like 1970, and he made a lot of this stuff, even like my mother remembers it when she was a kid. So some of this stuff is like 70, 80 years old. So what that means in the big picture, not much, but it's just something.
It means that you probably have some sort of connection to the Amish that, you just haven't discovered yet. I don't know, something. But, so. It's interesting, along the lines of what you're saying, I
always wanted to organize tours for Amish people in from neighborhoods. Like I would bring Amish people to Williamsburg or to Borough Park or Lakewood and bring the Amish people around and show them from Jews. Like the opposite of what we do Chalamayid.
Right. Sounds like a good idea.
I always wonder, whenever from people do that, like I'm always like, it's not so interesting. Like to a regular, let's say a regular secular, to a non-Jews, totally secular, it's really interesting. But to us, it's not so different. But yet you go there, it's right outside Philadelphia. It's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And we see tons of Hasidim and other from Yidden. And I always be like, it's not such a big deal. I don't get the appeal.
Although, Rabbi Spiro, you're onto a great business idea here. Maybe we should start tours of yeshivas and Shtetlach, the Lakewood and Williamsburg and Borough Park and Flatbush. I especially in New York now with all the PR that the Jewish community, the Frum community in New York is getting from Mayor de Blasio. I think it's time to start some tours after COVID-19. I think you're up to a very good business idea, Rabbi Spiro.
Another idea.
You can support the yeshiva for generations to come with this idea.
My friend was sitting in his dira. He was learning in Brisk. He was sitting in his dira in Gula somewhere, and he looks outside the window, right under his window, at like 8:45 in the morning. Before they're going to Seder, there's like a tour group of non-from Jews. He said he met in Tel Aviv or somewhere, and they were talking about right now. We are in Geula near Mea Sha'arim, and these are from Jews. He said he wants to start a tour group. He's going to go to like Tel Aviv, the suburban neighborhoods, and walk around and be like, these are non-Orthodox Jews, and they live in Tel Aviv, and this is what they do. He thought it would be a great idea. He wanted to reach out to them, like the way the tour guide was talking, like as if they were like these unbelievably anachronistic old-time people who like they were so bizarre, and he just thought it was so funny to him.
Yeah,
I read an article on Orthodox. It was very well done. Yeah, you sent me last night. You sent the link. It was really, really well done. And yeah, it's really a shame. It's always like that. I was on a bus from I forgot where Eretz Yisrael, and I also heard a young group of you could see they were very secular Jews, and they were talking about the Frum Jews in such a. I just wondered if I should say something to them. I was young. I was only 20 years old, but they were talking about it in such bizarre ways, like we just landed on planet Mars, and we're looking at these aliens, and they're so crazy. And I wanted to say, like, we're not as crazy as you think we are. It's just unfortunate, especially when these people, when it adds fuel to fire. I read the original book. I mentioned I read the book on Orthodox, right. And it's just, I feel bad for her, and of course, a lot of people since that book have denied what she wrote. Family members have said it's total nonsense. So that, I'm not going to get into that. Who knows? And we all know that that the ills that plague society are in our community too. And of course, people have bad experiences. But in general, if you go, people look at Tolda Siren in Shalayim, the ones who wear the gold robes on Shabbos, the Varlach. So people would go there. Also, you assume they're aliens. Anybody who walks in that door on Friday night, doesn't matter what type of Jew you are, you will get invited for a Shabbos meal by about 50 different people. Mm-hmm. They'll just come at you one after the other, and first in Yiddish, they'll say it to you in Hebrew, one after the other, asking if they could have you for the meal that night, meaning no prior arrangements, nothing. And just,
I should probably add that to the article that it is really many groups of Hasidim. We have to realize. Let's just call a spade a spade. Hasidus was like the original Kiruv movement, not the original, but it's Tekufa, and it's original. It was a Kiruv movement. That's what it was. It was a Jewish outreach movement to reach out to disenchanted Jews within the Orthodox community, but and to get them excited about Yiddish.
Within the Orthodox community, Rav Nachman in Breslov. He used to have a connection to a lot of maskilim. Mm-hmm. One of the big maskilim in Breslov, in that part of the Ukraine, he came to Rav Nachman's Levaya and he was crying. So someone asked him, "Why are you crying?" He said, "Because now I'm never going to become from." The only chance I ever had of becoming from, being a maimon was, he had grown up like that, but of becoming a maimon again was through Rav Nachman, through our discussions and dialogue, because now it's never going to happen because there's no one else I can relate to like that. So
I didn't realize that. It's beautiful.
Breslov was like that, and Chabad in Europe was very intellectual, extremely intellectual. Was not for the masses. The Balatanya, whose Torah is unbelievable, was really. Whenever I read his Torah, you always wonder how. Could he have said this to the masses the way the last about, and he didn't. The last about Rebbe was saying I had these massive Fabragans.
That was his movement. It was not the movement of Chassidus.
The Balatanya.
You have class in 2 minutes. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it was small and elite. That's like I'm small and elite. I like to think of myself as small and elite. And that's what old Chabad was. Then it changed, but Breslov was always, Nachman was always into the masses, and the Baal Shem Tov for sure was into the masses.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think about. I remember I was once in Skver. I went. A friend of mine took me for it was actually a Lag BaOmer Tish we were there for, and it was interesting because the Chassidim have the minig of shirayim. If you eat shirayim from the Rebbe, which is usually for most Chassidim, it's like a little speck of something from the Rebbe's table. But in Skver, what they do is if you're a guest, which is usually pretty obvious because you're not wearing a rekel and a biber hut and all that, they don't just give you a little piece of shrimp. They give you mamish a plate of food at the tish. They single out, they don't single you out, but they look for the people who are clearly guests, and they give you it was a whole plate of chicken and farfel and like mamish a whole plate of food. Yes, it's look, I think that's the main thing. Like I did not read the book. I actually read the Wikipedia page for both the book and the movie. I got a general idea. And like you said, this girl obviously had a terrible, whatever fact or fiction, but definitely did not have it easy with having basically no mother, having a mentally ill father, being raised by Holocaust survivor grandparents. That's a recipe for disaster for anyone. I mean, I'm just saying anyone who would emerge from that in a positive position would have the resilience of a tremendous person. So, my heart definitely goes out to her with the little that I know, but I'm sure that to a certain extent, the book is her perspective of how she was raised, and it might very well be accurate from her perspective. And that was my point. that's from her perspective, and therefore it's unfortunately just giving a perspective of somebody who had was dealt a very rough deal in life, nothing to do with Yiddishkeit or Satmar Chassidim or anything like that. But I believe that the task of all of us who have relationships with the Satmar community is to make sure people realize that there's some absolutely amazing things about that community that we all can't can't come anywhere close, or we can strive to be like that. I told my story, my friend Mayor Daskell, who I have to send the article actually, but the guy just literally met the guy through an eBay transaction. I mean, crazy story. I was selling a GPS on eBay, and this is probably like 2010 or something like that. And somehow, some way, somewhere, I guess in his username was Mayor or something like that. So I bageled him, and he bageled, and figured out he's he's from Kiryas Yale, and we just connected. What do you do? Cincinnati. I work in Jewish Outreach, Kiruv. And we became very close friends, and literally treated me like a melech when I was in his house for that evening. Literally, it was like the president that had arrived. He had all his friends come over. This is Rabbi Landis. He works in Jewish. He does Kiruv V'chaikim in Cincinnati, and it was just it was beautiful. I mean, and that's not the exception. That's the norm in that community. So I feel it's important to get that message out there.
They have Satmar has big musagim of chesed, big ideas of chesed.
Right.
But it makes me think, back to Wikipedia, this today is one of the greatest generations to grow up as a kid. When I was a kid, when we read a book report, so the teacher would always give us a warning by the book report: don't copy the summary on the book cover, on the back of the book. You're not allowed to use that for the book report, right? You have to, nowadays, there's so many options of Wikipedia. Even one of my kids have reports to write, and the teacher writes no Wikipedia, you must use sources. At the bottom of every Wikipedia page there's about 15, 20 sources.
Exactly.
It's just a great time to
and even beyond Wikipedia, as you I sent you, besides sending you my article, my unorthodox review of unorthodox, I sent you my ConCon articles, and I'm exclusive writing for ConCon. By the way, we have to figure out how to get ConCon into Cleveland in the stores here, but everyone should subscribe online to the ConCon Journal. It's a wonderful Jewish history journal that's about a year old, and I have the privilege of writing for. So as I sit down to work on my articles, so an interesting story. Rav Yosef Quadrat, the editor and the publisher, actually moved from Antwerp to London for the libraries. That's the reason he moved. He's such a history. His main job is he's a genealogist. Like he does these fancy family trees. Like if you ever saw those Rebbe family trees, that's him. That's him. That's his job, and that's what he does. And you there? Oh, so I think I got cut out for a second. But for his history love, he moved to London. But along those lines, we have so much available beyond Wikipedia, just right there at our fingertips. You used to have to get a Bar-Ilan CD for $700. Now you have HebrewBooks.org, which when HebrewBooks.org came out, it was, as you probably remember, it was the most impossible platform to use, right? It was, you couldn't search it. Now you can search it. You can, you got everything there. You have, and then if you're, with working on these articles, these ConCon articles, we like to look at what the academics say. Again, we filter it for Torah, and we slug it up. That's the approach of ConCon. But it used to be if I wanted an academic writing, I'd have to go to some library somewhere. And now it's, I don't want to say it's all online, but there's a lot of it's very accessible, very easy to find. And it's a great, it's a great world. What?
There's a lot of good resources out there that we can use.
Right, right.
Forum.blogspot.com is also an unbelievable resource. Great articles about. So, I'm just saying, but just the fact alone for the cheating factor, as a kid, for cheating on book reports, stuff like that makes the internet alone is worth the price of the monthly fee. But in any case, let's get into Shavuos a little bit.
Yeah, so we got Shavuos. But I need to say one more thing before we start, because I'm trying to make a point of mentioning this on all my classes.
Rabbi Landis is very distracted right now.
Yeah, no, sorry. I have like my kids trying to get into their Zoom class, and my 5-year-old's over there asking me for I don't know what. This is the fun of being in quarantine. So just before we jump into Shavuos, it's important to mention that Rabbi Spiro, we know that it's that you're a sheriff, that you're you're an officer, you have your badge and everything. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually in jail right now. It looks like my house, but I'm really in jail. There's just a filter on Zoom. And it's actually Facebook jail. It's not real jail. It's Facebook jail. I was put into Facebook jail because on January 28th, today, as you know, we have our wonderful Today in Jewish History, also available on Jewcast.com, just like the Rabbis podcast, and Navi podcast. Which, by the way, if you have not checked out Rabbi Spiro's Navi podcast, you're missing out. I love it. It's excellent. I'm up to Yiftach right now, and Sefer Shoftim. It's great. Rabbi Spiro is doing a bang up job on the Navi podcast. If you know Navi, it's a great chazara with wonderful insights. And if you don't know Navi, it's perfect to get just a working knowledge of it. It's wonderful. Anyhow, so we have Today in Jewish History. And the Today in Jewish History lessons are also posted on social media, including Facebook. And on January 28th of this year, which I think was Gimel Shvat, it was the anniversary of when Hitler Yamach Shemo was appointed as Chancellor of Germany. And it got flagged on Facebook, my Today in Jewish History, as being in violation of their community standards. And I cannot get clear answers as to why or how. There's no way to appeal this. Every human that I've been able to get into contact with is upholding the decision. So it's clearly not just an algorithm. It's actually like being upheld by humans at Facebook. And I'm now in Facebook jail because of this. And I'm making it one of my missions right now to kind of get this message out to the world of the plight of Rabbi Landis, #free Rabbi Landis. Not because it's affected us that much. I mean, Baruch Hashem, we have it's minimum security. So the Facebook penalties they put on me are not extreme. I'm basically limited in who I can invite to follow the page or invite to events we have on Facebook. So there's a limitation but not terrible. But that being said, it's on principle that you have Facebook, which is one of the foremost powerful companies in the world.
No, I'm not hearing you now.
Not hearing me at all? You can't hear me at all? Hello?
No, now
Bueller?
for a few seconds.
Yeah, you can hear me now? So sorry about that. So Facebook is number one of the foremost powerful companies in the world, up there with Apple, Amazon, and Google. Like people think it's just a social media platform.
I'm gonna go upstairs.
Are you not getting me?
If we can get a better reception. We keep on talking. I'm with.
Okay, we have Rabbi Spiro on the move now. So Facebook's one of the most powerful companies in the world, up there with YouTube, YouTube, Google, Apple, and Amazon, and it is not only that, but dare I say, it is more powerful than many small countries and even many medium-sized countries in the world. So,
Liechtenstein.
What's that?
They're a lot more powerful than Liechtenstein.
Definitely more powerful than Liechtenstein, and look, it's a super powerful force, and frankly, it's just a bad precedent that here you have Rabbi Landis, a partner of Torah of Cleveland, teaching Jewish history, teaching about the Holocaust, it's a very important subject for everyone to know.
I gotta find the room.
God, I hope the recording is going okay because we're recording this on yours, so not on mine. So it could be we're going to be hopefully we're fine on the Zoom cloud. So yeah, recording on the cloud, we should be fine because you're okay on my end. So anyhow, bottom line is I think it's important to share this incident on Facebook because look, it's just these things should be in check. It should a major powerful company should have to give answers as to why they feel that this needs to be censored and teaching about the Holocaust. It's it's not right.
It's always a problem. One of the worst things about big companies, in my opinion, and believe me, I'm not a socialist, but there's no human element. I mean, there's no person you could read. If let's say they made a mistake at Heinen's, right, and they thought, well, this guy is spreading Nazi literature in Heinen's, you could speak to a human being and talk about your plight. But whenever you have a problem, I just had something with T-Mobile. dealing with them, you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's true. Look, there's certain companies that are better than others. Certain companies, even though they're digital companies, they make it part of their they do make it part of their culture to be customer service oriented. Sweetie, I'm recording. Sorry, that'll be an interesting part of the episode. Zahava, come here, please. Fun thing of this new one. Zahava, your mower's waiting for you. You have Kriya right now. Zahava, your mower's waiting for you. You have Kriya right now. I know. 1 second. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's recording again.
Yeah. So yeah. Look, there are certain companies that make it part of their culture, having customer service, even though they're digital companies. Zappos is famous for this. By the way, I think on an upcoming episode we should call Zappos customer service because it's a whole experience. In fact, should we call them now? Maybe we should call them now. They're known, whatever the good word of notorious would be. They're famous for just having stellar customer service. They're even their phone reps. Like they are told they cannot ever hang up on someone as long as somebody wants to keep talking to them. They're trained to keep talking. And I think the record said at one point was like 6 hours that a customer service rep stayed on the call with someone. They're known for, like, you'll call them and say, where's the best place to get a pizza near me? And they'll give you suggestions of restaurants and just really excellent customer service. And ooh, Mr. T, look at that. B.A. Baracus.
He now actually, his acting career went south a little bit. He worked for Zappos as a customer service representative.
Actually, the truth is, I saw him pop up recently. Not when you sent it to me for the the Haggadah cover that I made for you, but he's one of like the top motivational speakers in the world now, apparently, like a Tony Robbins type.
What do you motivate people to do? What does he do?
I pity the fool who doesn't take my advice to make their life better.
Yeah, you wonder about these things.
But anyways, you're right. Look, that's also, I don't think an episode can go by where we don't touch on the pandemic, but that's obviously one of the big chesronos right now. I think we kind of addressed this before, but doing all of our learning digitally, look, it's great because we can spread it far and wide. I can put out a shear and it's and it can go to literally hundreds in a matter of no time. But out of those hundreds, that's in kamus and in quantity. But in Amkus and quality, nowhere near to learning with someone sitting across from them. First of all, how many people are sitting there? Type. Like it looks like it looks like they're with you, but they're doing 50 other things on their screen. And it's just that's what we're losing. And even though the digital world is the new world order, it's even a company like Zappos or Amazon that tries to have good customer service, or Apple, by the way. Apple has great customer service digitally. Still, it's digital, it's not the same. It's not the same as someone sitting across from you, like what I'm pretty sure is an apocryphal story of the Nordstrom's worker. You know the story of the Nordstrom's worker, right? This is what is most likely an apocryphal story of the best customer service ever, that a Nordstrom's worker once took back a set of snow tires as a return. And Nordstrom has never sold snow tires. And this is an apocryphal story told about the wonderful customer service that Nordstrom's has, because here, the customer said, I bought them here. And even though they never, ever sold snow tires, he took the tires back. The story is apocryphal, but as Ribeiro Wine Shlita says, I don't know if this story is true, but they don't tell it about you and me, right? And that's the bottom line, that Nordstrom's is a place with stellar customer service, which you pay for, by the way. Again, just going off on a tangent, like you mentioned Heinen's before. Heinen's has the best customer service of any grocery store I've ever been in my life. And because of that, the products cost $1 or $2 more, right?
It's not as good as Atlanta.
Let's not go there. Kroger's really based in Cincinnati. Kroger's followed me until I got here. But Heinen's is, wonderful customer service, like excellent customer service. But, you're paying for that because they're able to have excellent customer service by probably, providing more for their more for their clients, more for their staff.
I do most of my food shopping at Speedway. That's like my go-to supermarket in Cleveland.
I can hear that. I can hear that as an important thing. But anyhow, but look, that's that. Okay, we want to delve into Shavuos. Bottom line, free Rabbi Landis, get the message out there. Just on precedent that such a powerful company, needs to go into check. It just needs.
I'm sure it's not unprecedented. Just that's the way they do things. I have had Bachrim who sold things on Amazon and eBay and also got in trouble and were not able to reach anybody and to have anything taken care of. Let's just get a little bit into Shavuos. Landis is right now deciphering hieroglyphics now.
Yeah, I need to stop looking at my phone. People are literally driving me crazy today. Yeah, Shavuos is right around the corner. Now, by the way, if you like the Rabbis podcast, you will definitely like 613. I'm not referring to the Mitzvahs of the Torah, which you will like. I'm not referring to the a cappella band 613, which, if you like a cappella, gives them to hate. I'm referring to the Shavuos program. The Shavuos program, which is a joint effort of Partners in Torah, Yeshivas Ahavas Torah, MCSY, where we did it last year as a live program on Shavuos, and this year we're doing it as a virtual program on Tuesday night. It's going to be 6 presentations, each one 13 minutes, hence 613. Rabbi Spiro will be presenting Be'ezras Hashem on Megillas.
I present as a yachid. I'm just an individual.
Sorry, it's just Rabbi Spiro. It's not Rabbi Spiro Yeshivas Ahavas Torah, just Rabbi Spiro. And by the way, because we use Rabbi Spiro's accolade as the menahel of Yeshivas Ahavas Torah on this podcast is no longer called Rabbis Off the Wall, as it was originally called. Just FYI, Anyhow, weiter gegangen. So we're going to discuss Shavuos at 6:13 on Tuesday night. Be sure to tune into that. You can get the link on our social media pages and all that good stuff. And look, it's Shavuos.
You're just overwhelmed.
I'm overwhelmed, and I'll start with my overwhelmedness with a question that someone presented last night to me. That last night we started a series that I mentioned last week, and I'm really just excited about and having a great time with it already. And just the preparation of it, which you already contributed to, Rabbi Spiro, the You Might Be a Heretic If series, which is going to be a multi-week class on the Yud Gimel Yesodos Hamuna, as the Rambam calls them, which become the Yud Gimel Ikrim as we know them. And Rabbi Spiro was tremendously helpful because he referred me to Moshe Shapiro Zatzal's Sefer on the Yud Gimel Ikrim, which was wonderful. I was able to get it. They had it at Frank's Hebrew Bookstore. And it's great. I also got the other one from his son-in-law, the one on Avos. So I got both of them, and I really thank you for showing these to me. And so last night was the introduction, and Baruch Hashem, I have to say, a lot of times if my classes are good, it's nothing to do with me. It's really the siyata d'shmaya of the tzibor, that the tzibor, the group listening, deserves a good class. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives me the siyata d'shmaya to give them something good. And last night, I believe it came out very nicely. The approach we've taken is going to be partially based on Moshe Shapiro per your guidance, and partially based on Shmuel Yaakov Weinberg, that's all my Rosh Yeshiva from Yeshivas Ner Yisrael, and who also spoke regularly about the Yud Gimel Ikrim. And in the introduction last night, we were talking about what the Rambam says, the whole purpose of the Yud Gimel Ikrim. Why does he write them? Why does he write them? Where he writes them? Why in Mishnah Torah is it in a totally different place and form in Hilchos Tshuva? The whole approach. But more importantly, what it means emunah, right? And Rav Moshe Shapiro in the second mimer in the book goes into this, that it's the difference between emes and emunah. Emes is knowledge, right? When you know something, that's an intellectual practice that's totally driven by your neshama, totally driven by your mayach, by your brain, and it's purely intellectual. It resides up here. Emunah is when things go from up here to down here. In other words, they go from your neshama to your nefesh. They go from your mind to your heart, and essentially becomes inculcated in your actions. You like that word, don't you? Inculcated, and that's what the Rambam says in a very again, I would call it long-winded because I probably miss half or 90% of what he's saying, but in a very elongated and beautiful way, the Rambam in the Hakdama to the Yud Gimel Ikrim speaks out how these are not just statements. These are not just something to read. These are to be studied and chazered and reviewed and internalized, and they should get to the point of emunah, which Moshe Shapiro explains. Emunah means that it becomes part of your fiber and your being and your desires and your wants, and that's the point of Yud Gimel Ikrim. So that's their place in Judaism. So one of my Talmidim, actually from Cincinnati, Dave Ostreicher, who was tuning in, asked me the question. He said, "Okay, so these are the 13 principles of faith. Where do the 10 statements fit? You know, he's a Talmud of mine, so he knew they're called the 10 statements, not the 10 commandments, right? Where do the 10 statements fit in with this?" I said, look, great Shavuos question, because Shavuos, if we look at what Shavuos is, we refer to Shavuos as Zman Matan Torah Seinu, as the time of the giving of the Torah. But it was really it was to a certain extent you almost can't call it the beginning, because before Shavuos, before Vav Sivan or Zayin Sivan, Machlokas and Gemara, before Shavuos actually happened, before we call Maimed Har Sinai, before Moshe stood on Mount Sinai and Hashem spoke the 10 statements, Moshe already wrote down everything from Bereshis to up until that point.
But it's
what?
also, I think those two things, the Aseres HaDibros, if you look at the Rishonim, Sadia Gaon says this, I think Josh Sharan says it as well. Aseres HaDibros, just they're not the beliefs that a Jew has to have.
Exactly. No, 100%. Right. So what I said to him is it's, you have to understand, there are two different purposes. This is belief. Rambam says belief predicates a mitzvah. If you don't have belief, if you don't have your head on straight, your head transmitting to your heart straight, as Moshe Shapiro explains it, then a mitzvah is not a mitzvah, says the Rambam. Again, the Rambam deals with this there's a couple different ways in the Yad and at different places of the Rambam squeeze a similar idea out. But the Rambam is of the opinion, and it ends up being a machlokas rishonim to a certain extent, that if a person is completely shomer Torah mitzvahs, they keep Shabbos, they keep kosher, they put on tefillin, they go to the mikvah, they et cetera, everything, but they don't believe in Tchias HaMesim, right? The 13th principle is, that resurrection of the dead stuff, I don't believe in that. Says the Rambam, nitkein a mitzvah. Their mitzvahs are not mitzvahs, right? And again, Rishonim argue with him, on him.
The Gemara itself says that, what will happen to such a person, that even it's machlokes or not, but everyone agrees.
Well, that's the backdrop of the Rambam over there. That's where he's speaking.
The question is, everyone agrees that the Gemara says in Sanhedrin that when Tchias HaMesim does happen, they won't be part of it.
Right. But beyond that, and this is where Rav Weinberg speaks out in the famous Rav Chaim Brisker that Rav Weinberg is always quote. I probably heard it from 200 times if I heard it once. That Nebuch and Apikaris is still not Apikaris. In other words, what we refer to as a tinok shenishbu, or tinok shenishba, depending on which conjugation you use, that a person who is unfortunately raised without Torah and mitzvos, one of Landis's gripes that I probably don't bring up enough on this podcast is that quite often in Jewish education, especially in my line of work, where I'm reaching out to Jews of all stripes, there's a great michshol, a great pitfall, a great stumbling block of intellectual dishonesty that will oftentimes present Torah ideas and not really tell the full truth because we think it'll go down easier, so to speak, right? So, many examples of this, but one example is this concept of a tinuk shenishba, that a lot of times people say tinuk shenishba, you're not chayav, you have no penalty for the transgressions that you've done because you didn't know any better. That's all 100% true. But that being said, that person still doesn't have a chelik in olam haba. Right, and that's what Rav Chaim Brisker would say. Nebuchadnezzar Bikaris is still not Bikaris.
Right. Also, it's not. If you look at the Rambam himself, in a couple different places between Hilchas Shkagas and Hilchas Mamrim, it's not 100% clear what a Tinuk Shishba means. It could be the tzad that just knowledge of Torah mitzvahs makes someone not Tinuk Shishba. The Chazon Ish says not like that.
Right.
But people have it a lot more simple, and it's not clear in the Rambam himself what he says about the Karaim in one places. It's a very unclear sugya what it means. I heard a meridic idea from Moshe Shapiro. Someone asked Moshe Shapiro a great question. After Shir, people would gather around him and ask him questions. So someone asked him an amazing question. So fine, a person, let's say, how is he judged? Everybody's judged. How is your person judged?
Right.
So said to me, I remember the frightening idea. A person is judged by the own standards which they espouse in their lifetime. Meaning a person gets up there and says, okay, we both heard this before. I don't believe in the Torah per se, Chas Shalom, But I believe you have to be an ethical person and an honest person. Fine. That person will be judged in Shemayim based on ethics and honesty, like he said he believes in.
Interesting.
And if you think about it, almost all people, when they say those things, they're not being consistent.
That's very interesting because in the Sefer, he says something a little different than that, along the same lines, but he talks about how a human being is the only creation of the Almighty that has the ability to create his own reality. Right. In other words, a dog is a dog. A dog only has a nefesh, right? A dog is pre-programmed. Again, you can train a dog, but it's pre-programmed, right?
And what behema means in my house is behema means bama. It is what it is.
Right. Exactly. So, but a human, because we have a mayach and a neshama, we have the ability to shape our own reality based on our beliefs and how we inculcate them. So says Moshe Shapiro that for a person who essentially lives in an alma de shikra, in a world of falsity, in other words, their belief system is false, and that's what they've brought into their life. Then when they get to the olam ha'emes, the world of truth,
their construct as well.
Right? That's Gehenna, right? That's Gehenna because their whole world that they built this whole 120 years on this planet is not there. And he goes on to say again, Rabbi Spirit, you've added so much to my life, but most recently it's telling me about that
not
Sefer.
Just that way.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Do you have the Sefer?
I think I've given you my coleslaw recipe before, which I hope has added something to your life.
And the Wall Street pizza ranch dressing recipe.
Best pyre of ranch dressing recipe you'll ever have. So yes, I have Roya Emuna. I have the original.
Yeah, just beautiful. Yeah. I mean, again, I just went through he has three memorim, 3 shirim on the Hakdama, on to introduce the idea. I only went through 2 of them. I want to go through the third one, just even the.
That's interesting.
Beautiful, so beautiful.
He never wrote. He didn't write anything.
Right. We addressed this last week. That everything's from Talmidim.
Right, and to this I know, but he writes, look at Akdama to this Sefer of Roya Emuna in the Hebrew edition. He writes, I mean, he obviously trusted. I forget the guy's name who wrote it.
There was a son-in-law.
No. He translated it. He didn't write the Hebrew Sefer.
The English one. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So he writes in there how much time he put into the shirim and how the guy, his Talmud, did a great job writing him over. Moshe is very particular. If you look at the Naskamas of his different svarim, you can discern what he really held of the person's job the person did. And he just writes like, there's a Talmud, he did a nice job. And he elaborates, so you can tell. In this Sefer, he wrote very, very beautifully. But it's interesting to note also, I just forgot what I was going to say about Landis. I blame that on you.
That's probably my fault because I'm so long-winded. They say that an optimist is somebody who, when a rabbi says, in conclusion, puts their shoes back on.
Put their shoes back on. Oh man, I forgot what I was going to say. But this is we're saying I'm almost blanked out. I had a hard to say on something.
So why don't I keep running my mouth and then you'll Zoom raise your hand when you want me to shut up and we'll interrupt my idea for your idea. Does that work? But because I wanted to continue on this idea of the Seres Dibros and the difference between the Seres Dibros and the Yud Gimel Ikrim. So again, like the Rambam, the Yud Gimel Ikrim is a foundation. That there's no mitzvah without the Yud Gimel Ikrim. If you don't have proper belief, right, we're talking about Tinuk Shinishbo, and again, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, who now is the Rosh Hashiva of the Kiruv world, he has his Jerusalem Kollel and Eish Torah, that he also regularly says his idea. When you ask him a question of what's going to be with the Tinuk Shinishbo, so to speak, out there when Mashiach comes, and he says in his sweet, and you've heard him speak before, right, Berkowitz? He says in his very sweet way, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be there. That's why they're not going to be there.
I'll tell you that the idea I was going to say before about the person, Ilma Emes, is in a certain extent the construct of his own life. The Gemara, the famous Gemara in Brachas, where Ahu Chassid, he went to sleep in the graveyard. His wife got mad at him. He went to sleep in the graveyard on Rosh Hashanah night. He heard the Neshamas talking. One asked the other one, let's go toward the world. We'll see what's happening. And the other one said, I can't travel. I'm stuck in reeds. But the obvious question is, how could a neshama be stuck in reeds? A neshama is not a physical essence. A neshama is just a spiritual essence. So how could it be stuck in something physical? Right. So I believe it's the Marsha there. If not the Marsha, it's one of the other Achrayim says there. Explanation of the sugya of the Gemara is is that this woman was overly concerned with clothing in her life. So therefore, even in the Ilma Emes, she was contained by her clothing.
Interesting.
And even though obviously there is no clothing in the Ilma Emes.
Interesting.
Right?
But
But
there's no physicality, right?
But there's nothing physical, but at the same time, the person could make that. And I saw brought down a scary idea. I'm a person who loves food. It was brought down people who have strong taivas for food. In the Ilma Emes, you're not going to be able to, you're going to have the same taiva, even a person who's out of control with it. This is scary, and I don't believe in Gary. I once had a bacher who wanted to learn something called Reishis Chachma. He has something called their Masechtas Gehenim. And this bacher heard about it. He wants to learn it now. Why do you want to learn it? I said, it's just frightening stuff. He said, let's learn it together. So he begged me, so I learned it with him. It's very scary stuff, but it's not for us.
Was that David Weimer? Sounds like a David Weimer thing. No, not David Weimer. Okay, I thought for Yeshua Klein. No, anyways.
So you finish your thought, and then I'll say one more thought, and then we'll wrap it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but again, I've so much more to say on this from because of you, because that's safe, which is beautiful. So again, Amuna, Yogim Elekrim, 13 principles of faith, that's a foundation. No mitzvahs without that. Anything you do is according to the Rambam, not a mitzvah. And Weiter, both Moshe Shapiro and Andrew Weinberg, both speak this out in their eloquent ways, is you're not part of Yisrael. We again, somewhat intellectually dishonest, we say sometimes that a Jew can never stop being a Jew. That's true, but as I explained it last night, a Jew can never stop being Bnei Yaakov, but they can stop being Bnei Yisrael. And even the Mishnah Nava says this clearly, it's Kol Yisrael, Yesh Lam Chelik B'Olam Haba, and then it goes on to say, Elu Ein Lahem Chelik B'Olam Haba, not Elu Yisrael, Elu, because once you stop, and this Weinberg speaks this out extensively, and Moshe Shapiro also, that once you don't have the Amunas Yisrael, you're not part of the nation anymore. You've extradited yourself from the nation. So, anyways, but on to the Seres Dibros, because still caught in last night's shir. Go check it out on TorahAnytime.com. You might be a heretic if. But the Seres Dibros are as you started saying before so beautifully, are really a hakdama. They're an introduction, or if you will, sort of like a table of contents to the Taryag mitzvos. And this concept bothered me for years, actually, because I never had a clear understanding of it. In other words, I had heard the idea said. By the way, I thought your screen was frozen, but I realized you're just being very, very stoic. But as the idea I heard for years, I sort of like one of those things that we sort of regurgitate and we say, yeah, the 10 commandments, the 10 statements, the introduction to all the 630 commandments, but like how's that work? Because there's so much here that's not in other mitzvahs, and usually an introduction is somehow supposed to feed it all. So it's not true. An introduction is supposed to introduce an idea. And the best explanation I ever heard was from my good friend Rabbi David Foreman. You're probably in yeshiva. Did you ever lap with Rabbi Foreman in yeshiva? I don't know if he was there from Mechene. He might have only been there based Medrash and Kolel. But
I just look frozen for like 30 seconds.
You actually still are frozen. Your voice
now you're
is
frozen.
But your screen is frozen. It's a very cool look, actually, because your voice, it's like Hakol Kol Rabbi Spiro V'Hiyadayim Yadei Zoom or something like that.
I was trying to be frozen, not really, just look frozen. Then it really did freeze. So yeah, keep on going. Yeah, so Rabbi Foreman told you what?
So Rabbi Foreman has a beautiful idea to really explain how the Seres Dibros are the introduction to the whole entire Torah, to the whole 613 commandment system. So Rabbi Akiva says that the quintessential idea of the Torah is v'hata l'recha k'mocha, zeh kol gadol b'Torah. This is the general rule of the Torah. In other words, the whole purpose of the Torah is v'hata l'recha k'mocha, the idea of loving your re'echa k'mocha, that your re'echa should be like you, your friend, your counterpart should be like you, and the love that you have for yourself should be the same love you have as your friend. And it says Rabbi Foreman that's what the Seres Dibros are introducing, that we have the concept of the right side being what is often called ben olam lamakom, meaning between man and God, but as the way that Rabbi Foreman correctly explains, I believe, it's between man and his creators, because we get to the fifth dibor, and it's kavidas avicha v'esimecha, honor your parents, right? What are your parents doing on the right side, not the left side? Big question. Or the left side, not the right side. We have a split. Big question. Everyone asks this, and the answer Rabbi Foreman gives is because your parents are partners with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in creating us. And the whole way that each side of the Dibros work is that it's concentric circles. I love that phrase. I have no clue what it means, but it's concentric circles. In other words, it starts at a source and moves forward from there down to sort of like our reality. Excuse me, sorry. So, for example, if we go for the right side, for the bin adam le creators, the bin adam le makom side. So the first one's Anochi, right? That's the top. I'm Lord your God. I'm Lord your God. Took you out of Egypt. That's the top. Basic belief in Hashem. Then we go one step down. Right? Don't have any other gods. Right? Don't dilute what I bring to this world, because I'm the one and only, and you need to remember that I'm one and only. Keep it that way. Then next one is Lo Sisa. Don't take my name in vain. So one is believe in me. I'm the only one. And then let's face it, that once you go outside of the goof of an entity, the physical or the essence of the entity, the next thing you have is the name, right? In Judaism, we have all kinds of Torah about name, the importance of name, right? So name's the next level. So belief, just me, says the Almighty, and my name. That's the next level of existence, so to speak, of the Almighty. And then number four is space, right? I'm a reality, just me, my name, and then space. I have to be, that's the widening of the circle, so to speak, of the presence of the Almighty. And what's the final step? That this power that I bring into the world, it even connects to human beings to participate in the creation of more mankind. So it's an expanding of the Anochias, essentially, is what we see in the Seres Dibros, going from 1 to 5. When we get to the left side, to the bin adam lechavero, the between man and man, between man and his peers, it's the same exact parallel. So we think that to a certain extent the Seres Dibros go 1 to 10, but there's a reason they were like this. Because says Rabbi Foreman, 1 parallels to 6, 2 to 7, 3 to 8. Starting with what's number 5? What's number 6? I'm sorry. Number 6 is lo tirsach. Don't kill. Highest level. Don't remove human life. What's the next one? Lo sinof. Adultery. Right? Don't erase me from the equation. Next one, lo signov, kidnapping. Right? Next one is lo sana veit shaker. Again, my name. Don't say I'm not what I say I am. That's the next level. And the final one is lo sachmod. And don't try and take what's mine, or don't desire what is mine. So says Rabbi Foreman that that's the goal of being a Jew is v'ahat l'recha kamocha, that we have to love others, we have to appreciate the re'acha, who in a ruchniistic sense is the Almighty, and in a gashmiistic sense is the other people on this earth. And therefore, there's the introduction going down from the essence to essentially the reality of the spreading out and filling the world with the idea. So therefore, it's a beautiful beautiful introduction to the idea of the Seres Dibros, and how this is an introduction to the whole idea of the Torah. That as Hill said, the rest is commentary. Now go and learn.
Very nice. Let's just end off with one idea. I saw, and I measured, I never saw before this year. The measure says in Yalkut Shemaini brings down. There's this idea in Megillus Rus that every pasuk in Rus starts with the letter Vav, except for 8 pasukim, which is interesting. I mean, Vav happens. It's the majority. A lot of pasukim in the Torah start with Vav, but in particular, if you look at Megillus Rus, I never noticed it until this year, but you look at it, the Eile, right, the Chesed, the Aminadav, the Shalmon, the Oived, pasuk after pasuk, V'Zais, V'Taimer, V'Yomer. It's throughout the Sefer.
Interesting.
Almost every pasuk starts off with a Vav. Why? So there's really two reasons. Reason number one is the letter Vav. If you look in the Svarim, every letter has a lot of reasons, a lot of significance behind it. But two of the significance of the letter Vav are, number one, it's called the Isa Chibur. It connects, right? It's the word and in English, right? The prefix Vav in Hebrew is the same as the word and that's the idea. And it's Isa Emes, letter of truth. What's the connection? The idea is that a person who sees the truth in the reality, whose truth? Hashem is truth. The Gemara says in Shabbos, the seal of Hashem is truth. The only way a person can define the truth and find the truth in the world is by understanding that things connect to each other. Nothing happens independently. Everything happens because of the cause before it. The Gemara says in Sefer Rus that even the chesed that comes down to the world happens because of the chesed that Klal Yisrael does for each other. And if we do chesed for each other, that generates chesed. It goes up to Shemayim, it comes back down to us. But nothing stands on its own. Everything happens because of something else. That's the idea of the letter Vav. One idea why every letter starts with Vav. The second idea is another fascinating medrash I saw. Is that Boaz was Mesak in the number 6. Because 2 bad things happened with 6. Number 1, that in Gan Eden, right, they were supposed to wait, Adam and Chava were supposed to abstain from the Eitz Hadas for 6 hours. And then it would have been fine. But they didn't abstain for 6 hours. They ate from the Eitz Hadas. And Mamela brought all this Avera to the world. What's the second Sheish? The second 6 that Boaz was Mesakin? We'll say what he did in a second. The other bad 6 was that Klal Yisrael did not wait until the 6th hour of the day when Moshe was going to come down from Sinai. They were impatient, and they made the Egel Azav, and that led to the breaking of the first Luchais. What was the 6 of Boaz? Boaz waited 6 hours. Ruth was in his room for 6 hours that night. A young, beautiful, attractive woman, and Boaz never touched her. So the Medrash says that he was masakin the other 6s that had been pugged, that had been messed up in the Bria. This unbelievable mice, and you understand the whole story. I'm not gonna get into it now. It requires its own shear. The whole story is so strange. How Nami can send Ruth to go into Boaz's room. Ruth was still single. There was no yichud then. But even still, the Medrash says that Nami did hers, Ruth did hers, Boaz did his, and Mamela Hashem did his also. So meaning the whole thing happened. It was all min hashamayim for this events to lead up that Boaz would be kaivish yetzer to wait 6 hours.
Interesting.
And then this unbelievable thing happened that night, which was eventually the next day they got married, which led to at the end of the Megillah is so dramatic, right? That they highlighted as Oved highlighted as Yishai highlighted as David, right? The tremendously dramatic ending, and that comes from all the amelis and the avodah and the work done by Boaz and Ruth. So just one of many ideas to understand. On the 6 or 13, I'll speak more about maybe different aspects of Boaz and Ruth.
Yeah, and by the way, it's I don't with my I think I said this before. I definitely told you offline. Not sure if I said on the podcast, but in my daily Navi review that I'm doing, my daily trying to do a parak a day. So I'm attempting to as best I can to do nach chronologically. So like in Shoftim, I just did Iv's son, who was Boaz. And so tomorrow, and I clocked this right, Baruch Hashem. So tomorrow I'm going to start Rus and Chazer Rus. So I'll have more to say next week on Rus because it'll be fresher in my mind. But along those lines, one of the fascinating things that is that Iv's son had, 30 sons, I believe. I haven't listened to the Navi podcast on it yet. Had 30 sons who all died in his lifetime. And the only one that survived was Oved, who became Peretz's father, became David's father, right? Yishai's father became David's father. No, I missed one there, didn't I? No, Oved, Yishai, David.
Oved, Yishai, and David.
Right. Peretz is Yehuda. So you see that, and again, discussion in the Meforshim Sefer Shoftim as to why he wasn't sensitive to Yivtach, who didn't have other children, and I think it was Tola, I think, right? Tola didn't have other children.
Manoach, I don't remember who.
Oh, Manoach, right, Manoach. I'm sorry, Manoach, right, exactly. It's leading into Shimshon, right? The Manoach didn't have children, so Iv's son / Boaz did not invite Manoach to his children's weddings because he said, "Oh, he's not going to invite me to his because he doesn't have children, so I'm not going to invite him to mine." And that lack of sensitivity on such a great level, again, however it really was for him, led to the terrible einish of all of those children dying in his lifetime. But you see that he was not only masakin others, but he was able to, so to speak, correct himself, not only to have a child that survived, but a child that literally brought the kiyum of not only his family, not only his shevet, but all of Klal Yisrael with Shiach Zikeno. So it's just a fascinating idea how he's often not brought out as this, but maybe we should be the ones to bring it out. He's one of, we talk about David HaMelech, his grandson, his great grandson, being the exemplar of tshuva in Tanakh. But you see that he got the lesson from Boaz. We got to piece it together with Midrashim and Shoftim, Midrashim and Rus. But this was someone who did something that warranted all his children dying and was able to turn around to the extent to save Klal Yisrael with his descendants. So it's just fascinating stuff. Beautiful. Okay, well, we thank you all for your attention, and we're going to hopefully get one more episode before Shavuos next week, talk a little bit more about these ideas of Rus, of Maimon Har Sinai, and be sure to tune in to 613 on Tuesday night, which is going to be a great program. In the meantime, leave us a review, share this with everybody. and a big old fat welcome to the guest.
Welcome to the guest.